Okay, you know what? I'll get straight to it because you guys are looking pretty like, what's Clive doing? He's being himself again. So I'm going to start by asking you guys a question. And you probably heard it like a lot, like it's a brain teaser, but I'm going to say it anyways. And if you know it, don't blurt out the answer because that's just going to ruin it. So you're driving a bus and you go west 5 kilometers, you turn north and go 2 kilometers, then you drive for 16 meters. You take a left east, you drive 5 kilometers. How old is the bus driver? Have you guys heard it? Or
Yeah.
You okay, don't blur it up. Do you guys need more time to think? Do you want me to repeat it? Okay, so you're driving a bus. You go east 5 kilometers, you go west 8 kilometers, you drive for 16 meters, you let off 8 passengers, then you drive another 4 kilometers, you take a left. 6 kilometers, how old is the bus driver?
My answer?
You got it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to your answer if you got it. It's more like rhetorical because I'm about to
Is she
answer.
19?
You don't get it, do you,
I'm
man?
15.
You don't get it, right?
Yeah,
Okay, wait.
Okay, I'll get into it now. Okay, so when I was reading it, I was like, I had no idea what was going on. I read it and I thought you guys like add the numbers together, or there was like some strange combination or something. But it wasn't until I read like the very beginning of the question where it says, "You're the bus driver." So it's just like your own age.
Oh.
And yeah, that's supposed to be a joke too, I guess. Anyways, I'm just kidding. So this can apply like a lot in real life. Like your mom tells you to do something, and you go and do it, but then you get in trouble like 15 minutes later because you didn't do what she told you to do, or you didn't do what you're supposed to, or like your teacher. Let me flip my here. Your teacher gives you back a test and there's like an F on it, and you're wondering like why to get an F on it, and you go ask your teacher why you got an F on it, and he comes back and tells you that you weren't listening to the instructions, or you did it way differently than you were supposed to because you were looking at a purse like Ben is. And yeah, so I like a lot of the time we can get distracted and wrapped up in our day-by-day lives. And so what I'm going to talk about today is listening to God. And I'm going to mainly talk about how I listen to God, and I'm going to talk about how that's impacted my life, and then I'm going to share that with you guys, and I'm just going to touch on how we can listen to God, because I feel like there's different ways that each and every one of us listens to God, and I feel like God speaks to us also in different ways, so I don't want to be putting a lot of different thoughts in you guys' heads of stuff that you think you have to do. So, how many of you have ever like poured your heart out to a family member or friend and found out you haven't even been being listened to by them? Like I haven't, but I don't know if any of you, like Noah, Meg, Haley, did you feel like hurt and upset? Yeah, I don't even know where that question is going. What distracts you guys the most from listening?
My phone.
Like to God. To God. Yeah.
My child.
You don't have a child.
Okay.
I mean, never mind. So yeah, Meg.
Temptation.
Temptation. Do you want to like expand on that a little bit?
Like if your friends are like, hey, come party, and you're like, but church.
Church. Yeah. Anyone else?
Oh, I thought you said what church? I was like, wow, must be lit.
Because we party on Wednesdays.
That's right, Ben. Okay. Anyone else? I know there's a lot of you guys that have distractions from listening to God. Yeah, Dylan?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
I got a lot of them today.
Just name like 1 or 2.
1 or 2.
Yeah.
Mostly school and like how well I'm gonna do in school, and usually focus on that a lot for like my future and everything. And like I usually get pretty caught up in like not really listening to God or what He has planned for me, but like I rely on like my marks a lot.
Yeah.
I just
So Psalms 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." In the context of the verse, he's talking to Samuel, and but he isn't talking to Samuel in like the busyness of his day. He's Samuel's at night. He's praying. He's listening to God, and God knows our lives are busy, right? He knows that we have other commitments and we have our own lives, and honestly, that's the way he designed it. He wants us to have passions. Like for me, my passion is biking, and I'm just going to use this as an example. I feel like God's put biking in my life because a lot of the time I'll go on weekends and I'll just go for a bike ride and I'll just be praying. Not to say, because I know with Megan, you do like figure skating, and not to say that when you're on the ice you should be praying and stuff like that. I mean, that might really distract you and throw you off a little bit. But yeah, no, God knows that we have distractions, and I think that even just like lying down, like when you go to bed at night, you guys all like probably sit on your phones for like 5 minutes or like even longer than that, right?
7.
Yeah. Okay. So, like for me, I sit on my phone for a while usually, and I just scroll through Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. I feel like you just like sitting down and praying for. Yeah, you're on your phone for a week. That was good. Nice. Anyway. I feel like just sitting down and praying for like 5 minutes when you like just before you go to bed, like the time you spend on your phone, just replace like 5 minutes of that time just praying and just asking God if there's anything He wants to tell you, or if there's anything that you should be listening for. And that's how I started when I first started listening to God. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but this kind of leads into a story that I have for you guys, and it's actually a part of it, actually the main part of it. So about 4 months ago, I was just sitting in my bed, and much like I just said to you guys, like pray for like 5 minutes. Like I was literally just taking 5 minutes, or like not even, just praying and asking if there was anything God wanted to speak to me. And He said to share at youth, because it was a Tuesday night. He said to share at youth tomorrow that there was someone in the youth group that was struggling with trusting in God and was struggling with his faith. And so I shared that at youth, and I totally butchered it. Like I was nervous, and all I was God's word, but I totally just butchered it. But we went into worship, and Noah came back to me, and he's just like, that totally applied to me and my life, and so immediately, like, that's okay, Melissa. And immediately, right when he said that, it was almost like God was telling me that I needed to mentor him and bring him back on track with his faith. And so when God told me that, or kind of like spoke that to me, I didn't really know what to think of it. Like I knew it was the best thing, and but I didn't know if I was going to have the time or if I was going to have the power to do that. But just over like the course of like 3 months, I would just pray, and Noah would send me a text message. He'd be like, like I'm really struggling with this or that, and I would just be like, okay, God, what do you want me to say to Noah? And like instantly, or like in a matter of like a minute, God would just give me something to say to Noah, and so slowly, he was being lifted up more and more, and one night, I was praying, and Noah texted me, and he's just like, could I just like get some prayer, man? Like I can't even remember what it was for, but I'm just like, sure, and so I just started praying, but I ended up just praying for like 2 hours, just straight, and I was just God was just speaking to me, and I ended up sending this like really long paragraph to Noah. I can't even remember what it's about, and in the moment I didn't even know what I was typing really. It was honestly the weirdest feeling, but I just started typing, and I sent it off to Noah, and Noah replies with like, that was super powerful, and like really touched him and stuff like that, and so that was super encouraging for me, and to make the rest of the story short, I felt super called to go on a hike, and this is like half a month ago. I don't know why, but I felt super called to go on a hike, and God's just like, you're gonna go hike up to the top of Jerry with headphones in and playing Christian music, and I'm just like, okay, like that's kind of weird, but it sounds fun. Like, it was Sunday afternoon, and I'm like, I have nothing else to do, so I'll just go and do it. And so I went and did it, and I don't know why, but since I was super little, I've always had this fear of canyons, and just like being in them, I just feel so like trapped, and I don't know why. Just like I go in them, I know you guys are all laughing because like it's super weird, but I go in it and I'm just like, I just feel super trapped. Like, what if a bear comes and gets me and I like can't go back out or something like that? But like what scared me even more, like I was standing up, I'm just like, I have to do this with headphones in, and so I just started praying. I'm like, God, I need you to give me some faith here. Like, I really don't want to do this. And I was so tempted to take the headphones out, but I'm like, no, like, this would probably make a good story for my sermon or something like that, because I was just standing up and I was like, thinking about my sermon. I was like, this would probably make a good story for it. And so, but I had no idea what God had in store for that. So I ended up going down. I was filled with so much peace during the rest of my hike. And I finished my hike that night. I wanted to put that in my sermon, but I didn't really know what it meant, so I don't even know why. I could have texted like 100 other people about it, but I ended up texting Noah, and I'm just like, hey man, like, what does this mean? Like, do you think you could help me out here, and like how I can put it in my sermon? And he's like, yeah man, like I'll go pray for it, and if I could bring you up here, Noah. He ended up going and pray for it, and he just had like the biggest spiritual encounter, but I don't want to.
Well, not gonna lie, this was probably like 6 or 7 weeks ago, I think that happened, so I don't really remember too much of it, but I remember he just sent me like this massive paragraph, and it was about how God had given him the, I guess, idea of like how we are a dirty rock, and once you put it, like you can't really see how cool it is until you put it in water, and water is God, and when you pull it up, when you get pulled out, you're a sick looking rock, and that was the whole idea of this thing. And so I guess it just had a bunch of relevance in my life at the time, and I thought like at first, I'm like, yeah, this guy's gotta be crazy. I gotta get myself out of this situation, that doesn't make any sense. But no, I don't know, there was a song that he had told me about a long time ago, so I spent like 5 minutes just scrolling to the top of our text, trying to find this song. And I found this song, and I found like the live version. It was like 17 minutes long. It's like a 4-minute long song. There's just like a bunch of worship and praise and stuff going on throughout it. And so I listened to that whole thing, and I was like, this actually has so much relevance in my life these last like 4 or 5 months, and it all makes sense. And so then we talked about that forever, and it was a school night, and it ends up being like probably getting close to like 20 after 12. And we're talking about this rock in water, and it was such a spiritual thing for me. It was definitely a turning point. You could almost say I was kind of at the bottom, and Clive was helping me get to where he's at, and with that night and the rock in the water that got it.
All right. Yeah. All right, save the applause for later. You guys have to put up with my torture for a little bit longer. Okay, yeah, so that was just an example from my life of how God used me to almost change Noah's life in a sense, just by listening to him. And honestly, God can tell you to do stuff and it's going to be super hard, but like for that, a lot of it was just super simple. And yeah, so like a lot of the stuff God can tell you can be super simple, and you don't have to think like, oh, God's going to tell me to like stand up in front of 1 million people and tell me to go try and convert 100,000 of them. Like, God can get you to do the simplest of things, like even tell you to go give someone a pat on the back, and that could mean the world to them, and you don't know, but God knows that. And so I just encourage you guys to listen. I'm just going to share a story from the Bible with you guys, and it's the story of Abraham when God told him that he was going to burn down the city, but I'm just going to say it in like 30 seconds here because I'm just going to make this super long story super short. So God told Abraham that God was going to burn down this city that his nephew was in, and so Abraham's nephew was encountered by a couple angels, and the angels were like, go away from the city and don't look back because we're gonna burn down, our God's gonna burn down the city. And because it was just full of all these dirty, sinful people, and Abraham's nephew was the only good person left. And so God told him to, or the angels told Abraham's nephew to run away from the city and don't look back until you reach safety. But just before reaching safety, like Lot and like his nephew and their kids made it to safety, but his wife looked back, and God completely just turned her into a pillar of sulfur. And yeah, it's pretty bad. Stinky too, yeah, sulfur is. But yeah, so that's just kind of an example of, that shows like God's power. Obviously, like, He's not going to turn you guys into a pillar of salt. Like, I don't believe He's going to do that to any of you guys. But it just shows His power, and it just shows like here's an example of him and his family listening to God, and they were able to run away from the city and reach safety. And all they had to do was listen to this simple instruction. Don't look back until you reach safety. And that's just a super simple instruction. But his wife, like, just looked back just before reaching safety, and she was gone because of that. So I'm just gonna quickly share with you guys a little testimony, and then we're gonna go into an activity, because I know you guys like activities, and it's gonna be sweet. I hope you guys like it. Maybe we won't. Anyways, so I'm just gonna. Greg's laughing. I cracked him up. Okay, so I'm just gonna share. Yeah, but okay. So I'm just gonna share a little testimony. It's actually, well, obviously it's my testimony. I'm gonna share any of you guys' testimonies. I'm so funny, hey? You guys have just been laughing this entire time. It's my first time, so just bear with me, okay? So when I was in grade 9, and like before grade 9, up until grade 9, up into grade 10, I hated going to church. I couldn't stand church. I would get to church and I'd be like, when is this going to be over? During worship, I just kind of like sit with Jason and talk and distract him, and we'd draw pictures and stuff on like the bulletin. Like,
you're a thug.
Yeah, it was bad. And for me, a lot of my Christianity has just been listening to God, and my foundation has pretty much been built out of just listening to God. And so I'd say like grade 9, like right around this time, or like grade 9, I was invited to History Maker by Greg, and I didn't really want to go. I was just like, this is going to be lame, it's going to be a bunch of Christians, like, I'd rather go biking or something like that. But I ended up going, and I ended up actually having like one of the biggest spiritual encounters ever there. And it was the first time I felt God in a real way, and felt His love for me in a real way. And that was kind of like the start of me wanting to know more about God. And so going into grade 10, I was getting to know more of the leaders and more of the people at my church, and like more of the youth. And so I was like encouraged almost more to like go to church and in that sort of sense, and just want to learn more about God, because now I wasn't looking at God as just this made up character. I was looking at Him as like this real figure in my life, like this friend. And so I like going through grade 10, and then History Maker comes back around a year later, and I I wanted to go, but I thought it was just gonna be the same as the year before. I thought like, oh, I've already had this spiritual encounter, I can't have it again, type of thing. I don't know why I was thinking that, but anyway, so I went to History Maker after like a few debates with myself, and I ended up just having like another just huge spiritual encounter, and like that's one of the main reasons I love History Maker, is just because I just get pumped up so much with God. But like, usually you go to like a conference and you're pumped for like a week after, and then it's just like the real world hits you and you're like, okay, so back to reality. Like, God loves me and stuff, but I still have all these commitments and stuff. But like, when I got back, I was just so pumped with God, and to this day, like, I'm still always just pumped about God, and God's just like set this fire in my soul. But it's just been from Him like speaking to me and me obeying him. And different stuff like what I told you about Noah, like that just encouraged me so much and just encourages me to just keep going and listening to God, because God has just great things. And yeah, so it's super good what God can do when he speaks to you. So I'm just going to get into the activity now because I've talked for a little while and you guys probably hate my voice because it's a little...
Just kidding.
That was rude.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do for the activity is I'm just going to pair, like, you guys can be pairs because you're like best friends. And just like choose a partner or something, like right now, go choose a partner. Go choose a partner. I'll be your partner. Okay, you can be my partner.
Yeah.
Danielle, do you have a partner? No,
Her name's
okay.
Janelle.
Janelle? Okay, I'm sorry.
Danielle. There's three of them. I can just, we can be a three. Just
Three? Yeah, let's go three.